His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Prajachana Ranjana Yasodanandana Prajachana Ranjana Jamuna Thira Banachari Jamuna Thira Banachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Prajachana Ranjana Jamuna Thira Banachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari Om Akyantimidandasya Jnananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Satarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Thank you for being here this evening. Could anyone hear? I am sincerely grateful to have this special blessing of being among all of you for this very, very sacred festival. And my special gratitude to all the devotees who performed this wonderful drama. In fact, after seeing this drama, I am very speechless. Mostly because everything I was going to say was already in the drama. But still, it seems like I have to speak something. So I'd like to just speak a few words in relation to this wonderful story we have witnessed, depicted by our devotees who, with so much heart and soul and joy, presented this play for us today. Our beloved Guru Srila Prabhupada, he gave his heart, his life and soul to present Vedic literatures in the form of his books. In fact, from 1944 he began the Back to Godhead magazine. He was the writer of all the articles, he was the editor, he was the everything, and he was the only person distributing them. And when he was living in Vrindavan, he was inspired to translate the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures. Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence, the crest jewel, the culmination of all Vedic literature. And for approximately 6 years, he spent in a small room in Vrindavan. at the Radha Damodar temple, writing the translations, studying the commentaries of all the greatest saints or acharyas over the centuries, and distilling them into his Bhaktivedanta purports. And while he was traveling around the world from 1965 on, Srila Prabhupada would spend from midnight till about 4 or 5 in the morning every night doing his translations while everyone else was sleeping. And in the midst of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada decided it is so important for the people of the world to understand Lord Chaitanya and his associates. So he wrote the 17 volumes of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we have with us this evening His Grace Rameshwar Prabhu, who could... He was right at Srila Prabhupada's side in his innermost circle of loving devotees, helping him to publish these books. And helping to inspire the largest distribution of Vedic literatures in the history of the world. And part of the production of the books was the art department. And Srila Prabhupada described that the paintings of these devotees, because they were done with such sincerity and devotion, no one was getting paid anything. They were simply doing it out of gratitude, to reciprocate with Srila Prabhupada's love and to share that love with the world. And Srila Prabhupada, he appreciated that these paintings were windows into the spiritual world. And many years later, this was in the 1990s, perhaps the most famous and accomplished painter in all of India. His name was Indra Sharma. He would come to our temple at Chopati, Mumbai, Radha Gopinath temple. And about once a month he would invite me to his home for prasad. And in his home, he had hundreds of his original paintings. Some of them were murals that were huge, like almost as big as this wall. And yet the way he painted in this huge mural, which was Krishna's holy Leela with Sri Radharani, it was so intricate that the only way you could see the details was with a magnifying glass. And he had to paint it. He had to paint the details with a magnifying glass. There were layers below other layers that you could actually see. And yet it was the size of a wall. And his paintings are famous throughout all of India. S.S. Brijabasi would print them. And he told me that in the early 1970s, Srila Prabhupada requested him to teach his artists the culture of painting. And Indra Sharma told me that I was born and raised in a culture of artists and painters. as far as our family tradition has gone back for hundreds of generations, everyone from birth was born and raised to be a painter. He was from Natwaram, the place of the deity of Gopal or Srinathji, where this Rajasthani art has its origin. He said when these devotees were coming under Srila Prabhupada's direction, they were painting like children. They had such simple art. And if you go to 26 Second Avenue, you'll see some of the original art that's there. It looks really simple and innocent and childlike. He said, but in a few years, they are the greatest painters in the world. He said, I can say myself and my whole community of great artists, we cannot compare the quality of the art of the Hare Krishna artists. And he said it's only for one reason. Because they're doing it exclusively for the pleasure of their guru. And therefore their guru, Srila Prabhupada, and Krishna and Radha are empowering them to do something way beyond their own abilities and way beyond anyone else's ability. It is filled with bhakti, with devotion. He was crying when he was telling me this. And Srila Prabhupada also considered the art and culture of drama to so much personify the histories and the teachings of these great Vedic literatures. During Srila Prabhupada's time here in New York City, there was Vaikuntha players. And at the Radha Govinda temple they would play. And they traveled various parts of the world. Srila Prabhupada was so moved to encourage the artists in these dramas. There were times when Srila Prabhupada said that your dramas are non-different. In fact, they're even more accessible than my books. It's taking the teachings and the lessons of the books and presenting it in ways that people are thrilled to receive it. So I'm so very grateful to these devotees at the Bhakti Center. Obviously, they had to work really hard to put together this drama, especially girls putting on whatever that was to make them have for these ladies to have authentic shaved heads and to dress as Goswamis. That takes a lot of surrender, actually. Most of the Goswamis were ladies. But there was so much direct, everything that was there is directly from the scriptures. There was nothing invented. It was the stories, it was the lessons, and with so much sincerity and so much devotion, very much moving our hearts. And Srila Prabhupada also writes in purports that when devotees perform these dramas in an act of devotion, in an offering to actually inspire and enlighten people's lives with no other motivation, then the Shakti of Krishna's grace comes through their offering and can move people's hearts more than anything else, can actually awaken the soul. Great actors, actresses, and everyone, producers, directors, who are, in the industry, if they don't have that that devotion, that sincerity to awaken people's hearts. It could entertain and even enthrall one's mind, senses, and intellect. But only if it's offered with sincere and genuine dedication and devotion does it touch the soul and awaken the soul. And this we saw this evening. I thank all of you very much. And even the mistakes are wonderful. May Radhanath Das Goswami, when he met Lord Chaitanya, he couldn't even wait to shave his head. We all directly witnessed, as soon as he met Lord Chaitanya, all his hair just fell off immediately. But I'd like to just speak a little on this drama with some lessons we could learn. It began with Radhanath Das Goswami when he was a child, just doing his studies in such a young age. At that time, his family priest, whose name was Balaramacharya, wanted to enrich Raghunath's and the whole family's life with the association of a truly great saint. His name was Haridas Thakur. Just days before this incident, Haridas Thakur was living in Benapole, a place near Bangladesh, in Bangladesh today. And Haridas was coming from, by the evaluation of the caste system at that time, he was an outcast. He was considered an untouchable by certain orthodoxy. But yet the Lord chose him to be the exemplary teacher of chanting the holy names, which is very revolutionary. Because at that time the orthodoxy was very, very much strict about these castes. And Lord Chaitanya just crashed through that whole misconception and challenged everything by making Thakur Haridas the example, the guru for the Yuga Dharma of the chanting of God's names. But practically wherever he went, he was persecuted. In fact, people tried to destroy his reputation and even kill him. What an example. He was so humble, so compassionate, so forgiving, and so spiritually advanced. He just wanted to help those people who hated him to love God. He didn't see in terms of friends or enemies. He saw everyone as a child of God. And whatever they think of me, I am their servant. Let me be an instrument of compassion upon them. So this Ramchandra, by doing a prostitute with a specific mission, and she was getting paid to make him fall so that he could be arrested, tortured, and possibly killed. And Haridas so kindly and graciously honored her and respected her and said, I will do whatever you want me to do, but let me finish my chanting. Just wait here. But he never finished his chanting. So after 3 nights, all night, he finally said, okay, I'm finished. What would you like? She said, I just want to be your disciple. How do you do? She said, I confess, I came here to destroy you. He said, I know that, but I would have left the first day, but I stayed here just to rescue you. That was Haridas. But he had to leave. And from Benapal he went to Chandpur, which is in a village within a cluster of villages called Adisaptagram. And in one place, village, is Krishnapur, which is the birthplace and the home of Radhanath Das Goswami. And Radhanath Das Goswami was the son and only heir of the wealthiest people in that whole area. His father, Govardhan, and uncle, Hiranya. It is described that they were earning, at that time, over 800,000 rupees a month. And in those days, for 1 rupee, you could buy 650 pounds of rice. So can you imagine their fortune? They were like billionaires. Huge estates, so much power, so much popularity, and they were so pious too. Everyone loved them. And Radhanath was the only heir. So he's a little child, and his family priest, Balaramacharya, brought him to his own house where Haridas Thakur was living close by. What a culture shock. He's living in royal opulence with so much luxury and beauty all around him. And Haridas was in a little straw hut. The only clothes he wore was a loincloth. He had nothing. He had no home. He was always moving around because people didn't like him. But Radhanath could see and could feel Haridas Thakur's love for Krishna, his love for God, and his compassion for all beings. He could feel his wisdom, his realizations. And Radhanath Das, the child, he believed from that time, this is what is real wealth, what he has. He has nothing material, but he's happy. Not only happy, he's in ecstasy. What does he have? Namruchi. He's tasting the sweetness of God's holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Haridas Thakur was chanting 300,000 names of Krishna every day. By our standards of rounds with 108 beads, that's about 192 rounds a day. Every day, minimum. And yet he would still go out and share his love of God and share his compassion with people in all directions. Radhanath Das Goswami, he realized that his love for chanting Krishna's names, his his love for sharing his love with others. This is the greatest wealth. This is what I want. He had fame. Haridas was being persecuted. He had luxuries and property and security. Haridas had nothing. This was his goal in life. Raghunath would go to visit Haridas Thakur every single day, just to be in his company, to hear his wisdom, and chant in japa and kirtan with him. And it transformed his life. Very similar to the story of Prahlad was in the womb of his mother when he heard the message and felt the compassion of the great Narada Muni, and he was transformed. Some years later, Lord Chaitanya, after he took sannyas, he was coming through Shantipur. And it was at that time that Advaitacharya had his home there. And Advaita was the leader of the entire Brahmin community. The people who were honored as the most enlightened and learned people of society. And interesting, Advaitacharya invited Haridas Thakur to come and stay close to him. And at that time, Advaita lived in a beautiful estate. But he knew what Haridas liked. He found him a lonely cave to stay in. But they would meet every day and pray and chant together and honor each other beyond all worldly designations. Sarvapati vinirmuktam. That one of the attributes of a person who's actually close to God, a person who's in touch with the soul and enlightened, is they do not identify themselves or others on the basis of these external worldly identities, these designations. And we see in the world today how on the basis of different designations, whether it be our race or our sex or our religion or our social status or our wealth or our knowledge or our species of life, the false ego, the ahankar, is when it's disconnected from the happiness of the soul, the spiritual treasure, when we are not appreciating the glory of God's beauty, sweetness, and greatness, then we try to find that by proving to ourselves and others our own greatness. And then we fall into all these designations. Janasya mohoya mahamameti, I and mine, which means I'm different than you and yours. And if we look at the world today, so much of the greed and the suffering and the violence and the discord is people fighting over these superficial, temporary designations. And they're so fleeting. Because what we're fighting against We could die at any moment. And if we're focused in hatred on something we don't like, then it's very likely that after we die, we're going to be that designation that we hate because we're focused so much, our consciousness on it. So who am I? If we want to do good for the world, we must first understand who am I and who are you? So Raghunath Das Goswami's father and uncle, they were very pious and very wealthy. And they had so much reverence for saintly people. Among the Vaishnavas, headed by Advaita, they were the main donors who were actually contributing property and money and facilities because they believed they were pious. They were religious people. So Raghunath, he was now a young man, and Advaitacharya, because Lord Chaitanya was staying at his home in Shantipur, he personally arranged for Raghunath to meet Lord Chaitanya directly. And he personally arranged the food remnants, the Mahaprasad of Lord Chaitanya, to go to Raghunath. So because of the association of Haridas Thakur and his values and the blessings of such great souls, Raghunath Das could understand immediately that Lord Chaitanya was Krishna himself. No one had to tell him. It was revealed within his heart. And he wanted to give his life, everything, to assisting Lord Chaitanya in his mission of compassion. And Raghunath went home. And at that time his parents could see that he just didn't have a passion for everything that people are passionate about in this world. In one sense, they were proud of him, but in another sense, parents are parents. They were worried. He wants to just give up everything. And we have worked so hard for everything we've done and everything we've achieved. And we're going to die soon, and he's the only heir to carry it on in our family. So it was very serious for them. And Raghunath, every now and then, it would just be so overwhelming, he would leave home. And his parents, as we saw in the drama, they had 11 guards. Full-time, 24 hours a day, 11 guards with the single purpose of keeping Raghunath Das home. He'd leave, they'd bring him back. He'd leave, they'd bring him back. He'd leave. Another time, when Lord Chaitanya was making his attempted journey to Vrindavan, he also again stopped in Shantipur at Advaitacharya's house. And Raghunath Das, with the permission of his parents, went to meet him again. And there Lord Chaitanya gave that instruction that was so beautifully spoken in this drama today. Lord Chaitanya, he was speaking to the whole world. But each person, even in a universal teaching, each person, according to who we are and what our nature is and how we could best serve, we're going to receive it in a different way. He was describing what is real renunciation. Real renunciation is not just giving up things. It means giving up the ego that I'm the proprietor, the controller, and the enjoyer of things. Prapanchakatiya buddhya, Rupa Goswami says. What is real renunciation? It's not just to give up things. As described in this drama, there is the Marakata Vairagya, the renunciation of a monkey. Monkeys don't wear clothes. And they only eat like berries from trees. And they don't have houses. But yet, internally, they're always looking for something to enjoy. Real renunciation is to understand Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Everything belongs to God. And if something could be used in the service of God, if something could be used to please the Lord by uplifting human society, then it's Palgu Vairagya. It's false, incomplete renunciation to give that up. True renunciation is to use what God gives us for the higher purpose of God's service. My intelligence, whatever wealth we may have, to see that it is entrusted to us to serve, seva, that is renunciation. There's a well-known story. One time a devotee came to Srila Prabhupada, and very proudly he said, Srila Prabhupada, I want to give up everything. Srila Prabhupada said, what? He said, Srila Prabhupada, I am going to renounce everything. And he was thinking Prabhupada was going to be really pleased with him. And Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna's the proprietor of everything. What do you have to renounce? Nothing is yours. The person became speechless. He was not expecting. He was expecting to be praised, not chastised. And then Srila Prabhupada continued his question. He said, what do you have to renounce? Everything belongs to Krishna. And he was speechless. And Srila Prabhupada answered his own question. The only thing you have to renounce is the misconception that you have something to renounce. Now I'll go a little deeper into the subject a little later in the story. So Lord Chaitanya told Radhanath Das Goswami, you should go back home and you should perform all your duties expertly, with full consciousness, to do it the best you can. But in your heart, you should always be remembering Krishna. And internally, let the people outside think that you're just like them. But internally, do everything in the loving service of the Lord. So he went home, and then there's beautiful stories of how he actually was so expert at everything he was doing. His father and uncles got in a really, really difficult position where they were about to be put in prison and everything, and Radhanath Das Goswami, through expert human relations and diplomacy and brilliance, he made everything right. But still in his heart, Lord Chaitanya promised, when Krishna shows his mercy to you, then you will realize your dream. Now, meanwhile, in Jagannath Puri, where Lord Chaitanya was staying, he had already performed his South Indian tour, And every year he was inviting all the devotees of Bengal to come to celebrate Rath Yatra with him. 4 months. In those days, it took about 2 to 3 weeks walking each way. There were no planes or trains or cars, no highways. You just walked through forests and villages, earth paths, no hotels or motels. But they all came, hundreds and hundreds came to spend 4 months to be with Lord Chaitanya and his associates. And Lord Nityananda Prabhu was one such person. Nityananda Prabhu is, Srila Prabhupada cites Narottam Das Thakur. Brajendra Nandana Jai Shachi Shuta Hoilo Se Balarama Hoilo Nitai. That Brajendra Nandan, Krishna, has come to the world as Sachinandan, Lord Chaitanya. And Balaram has come as Nityananda Prabhu. Balaram is the original guru. He's the first expansion of God himself, who's teaching everyone how to love God and how to serve God. Eternally. So one day Lord Nityananda was brought to a secret place by Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya told Lord Nityananda that I had come from Navadvip, from Bengal, and so many of the cultured, learned, truly pious people, they have all taken in their heart of hearts this Sankirtan movement of the chanting of God's names. They're all living by the highest principles of Sanatana Dharma. But yet, there are so many who are just so addicted to materialistic activities, people who are really sinful, people who are really just ignorant of any spiritual conceptions. Nityananda, you should stay in Bengal and reach them and everyone else. Do not come back to Puri. Now for these devotees, their life was coming back for the 4 months. Lord Chaitanya said, you go back to Bengal and stay. So Nityananda Prabhu, he accepted this instruction. In fact, Nityananda was living as a renunciate, and to facilitate his mission, Lord Chaitanya told him to get married and have a family. This is really interesting. Raghunath Das Goswami wanted to give up his family. That was the best way he could serve. But yet for Nityananda it was the best way for him to serve, to start a family. Which is better? Among Lord Chaitanya's associates, Nityananda was married, Advaitacharya was married, Srivas Thakur was married, Shivananda Sain was married. But yet there was Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Swarup Damodar Goswami. They were sannyasis, they were renunciates. No one would ever conceive that one is better than the other. In fact, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, they were all, it was by Nityananda's mercy that they attained the shelter of Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Nityananda was married. And they were all going to get the blessings of Advaita. Haridas was a renunciate, and Advaita was married with 6 children. They both honored each other, and they both played their roles so expertly. Their nature and how they could actually best serve, where they were most empowered. So Nityananda Prabhu brought his closest associates. We must leave Puri and go to Bengal. And they were very happy because they were serving the will of the Lord. They weren't able to see him physically anymore, but they were going to be serving his will, which is the deepest connection. And Vrindavan Das Thakur in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat goes into wonderful details of this journey back to Bengal. They were so enthusiastic to spread love of God, Krishna Prema and Krishna Kirtan, through chanting of God's names. So immediately, they were chanting together, dancing together. Now it's several weeks of walking to get to Bengal from Puri, and you have to go in the right direction to get there. Nityananda Prabhu was so empowered. He had such deep mercy that when he glanced at someone, his supreme compassion and love would just pour through his glance and transform a person's life. Not all of us can do that. But he's an avatar. So what avatars could do, we just honor and worship and try to follow in the footsteps. So Nityananda Prabhu just glanced upon all of his associates, and they were tasting and experiencing Radharani and Krishna in the fullness of Vrindavan as they chanted the holy names. So there was probably about 20 or 30 of them. Abhiram Thakur, who was one of the associates, suddenly he just entered into such a state where he realized he was a cowherd boy in Vrindavan. Now they're just going through fields and villages chanting together, but he just entered into this state. And he stood unmoving in a pose of playing a flute for 9 hours. And everyone was just going around him and singing and chanting. Now how do you get anywhere where everybody's doing like that? So they went several days. There's a specific road you have to take to get there. They were going toward the Ganges. And suddenly they realized they didn't know where they were. So they asked someone, "Where is the Ganges?" And the person, hi, why do you ask such a question? You are 6 miles away from the road that goes to the Ganges. You have to go back to that road. You're going the wrong direction. And what did they do? They all smiled and laughed and continued their kirtan. They were dancing and singing, and Lord Nityananda was glancing upon them. And then a couple days later, they get on the road, and they're on the road. And then a couple days later, they ask someone, "Where is the Ganges?" You're going the opposite direction. You're 20 miles from the road. So they all left, and they went back to the road. And in this way, they were so transcendentally situated that they were oblivious to the external world. And somehow or other, they made it to the Ganges. And they were laughing because they had no idea how they did it. And when they came to the Ganges, they came to a beautiful village named Panihati. And in Panihati, there was a sister and brother that lived. Her name was Damayanti, and his name was Raghava Pandit. And they were such pure devotees. The Gauraganodash-dipika, great scripture, describes they were gopis from Vrindavan, both of them. And when Damayanti cooked, she had so much love and devotion that it is described, Srimati Radharani directly entered into her heart and cooked through her hands. And this is described in Chaitanya Bhagavat, that Srimati Radharani in Vrindavan, she once cooked for Durvasa Muni. Now Durvasa Muni is a great yogi. If you want to know what a yogi could be, he's a yogi that you could learn what to be and what not to be both. He had such powers. And Radharani was a little girl, and she cooked for him. And Durvasa Muni was, all the other gopis was afraid of him because he looked very fearful. He was like a powerful yogi with all these miraculous powers. But she just cooked for him and served him so nicely, and he gave her a blessing. That anything you cook will taste like pure nectar. And anyone who tastes any of your food will never get sick ever in their life. And he was the kind of yogi, when he gives his blessing, it actually is true. You know, many people give blessings, but it's like, I mean, he means well, he means well. So when Yashoda Mai heard that Radharani, Srimati Radha received this blessing, she arranged that Srimati Radharani cook breakfast for Krishna every day. So Damayanti, in their beautiful little home in Panihati, she would cook, and in her kitchen, Srimati Radharani personally manifested within her heart to make these preparations. And her brother Raghava Pandit was of such a great devotee. He was of the same. He was also expert cook, an expert at serving. So Nityananda Prabhu and all of his associates, they somehow or other arrived in Panihati and were greeted by Damayanti and Raghava Pandit. And that became like the base for spreading Krishna consciousness for Lord Nityananda. It is described, Raghava Pandit gave Nityananda Prabhu a really nice seat to sit on. And Nityananda Prabhu said to Raghava Pandit and Damayanti that bring me a garland of kadamba flowers. Kadamba flowers, how much time do I have? Because I'm kind of, when it comes to time, I'm like those devotees trying to be on that road to the Ganges. I'm not transcendental, I'm just spaced out. But sometimes they're similar. Thank you for your blessing. What was I saying? Kadamba. Kadamba flowers are so fragrant. I remember at our Radha Gopinath temple, we have Kadamba trees, but Kadamba flowers only grow in the heat of the summer season, right before the monsoons. It's just a short window when the flowers bloom. Otherwise, there's no possibility of Vrindavan Kadamba flowers. But they're so fragrant. They're unbelievably fragrant. I mean, I'm biased because I heard all these stories, but but sometimes we see through our ears, and sometimes we smell and feel through our faith, and according to our faith, we have a different experience of things. You know, somebody smells a Kadamba flower, they may think, oh, this smells real good. I'd like to give one to my girlfriend. But for others, this is Krishna's favorite flower because it's golden and reminds him of the beautiful golden complexion of Sri Radha. So Kadamba is Krishna's favorite tree. So Nityananda Prabhu told Raghava Pandit, bring me a garland of Kadamba flowers. And Raghava Pandit said, that's impossible. He said, it's impossible because the Kadamba flower season is like 6 months away. They don't grow. And Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda just smiled. He was very humorous. He's probably the most humorous of all avatars. Nityananda Prabhu. He just smiled and said, just go back into your back courtyard and see if there's any Kadamba flowers. And Raghava Pandit, he didn't even have Kadamba trees in his back courtyard. What to speak, it's not the season. But Nityananda glanced at him, so he went to his back courtyard, and he saw a lime tree, L-I-M-E, lime tree, was completely filled with fully blossomed Kadamba flowers. And each one was so fragrant, it was filling the world. So he strung a Kadamba flower with lime tree Kadamba flowers and made the garland and brought it to Nityananda Prabhu, and everybody was intoxicated because it wasn't just the smell of the flower. But on the basis of our faith and on the basis of our love of God, when we're smelling the prasad of the Lord, we're smelling God's grace. And it's not just a imagination. If we have that faith, if we have that purity of purpose and heart, then we actually are tuning in and accessing the pure fragrance of the mercy and the love of God. That's why Nityananda Prabhu wanted the Kadamba flower, so that everyone could be most happy. And then as he was sitting there, he began to glance at each devotee. And Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat describes in such beautiful detail the effect of his glance. No, I'm glancing, but what happens? And you're glancing, and what happens? Nityananda Prabhu would glance and infuse people's hearts with so much ecstatic love for Krishna and so much taste for the name of Krishna, it was beyond the capacity of anyone to handle. He'd glance at somebody and they would just fall unconscious in ecstasy. And sometimes he'd see a whole row of devotees and he would just glance like this and they were all going to. It's described like a windstorm knocks down banana trees and they're all just swirling. falling down, and then getting up, and he'd glance at him again, and they start dancing. And there was no limits to there was no material impediments to limit their dancing. Some of the devotees, they danced right up a tree. Now, can you do that? But God can make lizards and flies. They could crawl up a tree, right? So why can't he make a human if he wants? But it wasn't based on the abilities of the instinctive nature of a species. It was based on an ecstatic love that was just beyond material limitations. And there were grown men infused by Nityananda Prabhu's glance who were dancing on the branches and dancing on the twigs and dancing on the farthest reaching leaves of the trees. And they weren't falling. And then one, Purandar was his name, he just cried out all of a sudden, "I am a cowherd boy!" And he was at the top of this high tree dancing on the leaves, and he just jumped down and kept dancing. In this way, the kirtan, they were all appreciating each other so much. Nityananda Prabhu would just appreciate each devotee's singing, each devotee's dancing, each devotee's gestures of devotion, and everyone was appreciating each other so much. There was just no envy, there was no ego, there was only prema, love. This is what this is the potential of the Leela that kirtan can bring us into directly on the transcendental platform. This kirtan continued for 3 months. By the power of Nityananda's grace and his glance, in the whole 3 months, people forgot about eating and sleeping. They simply chanted and danced continuously in the way that I'm just describing. It wasn't like these were just special features. Every moment was extraordinary and beyond miracles of this world. They were in the Leelas of Vrindavan. And no one ate anything, no one slept for 3 months. It was continuous and nobody was tired. And actually later, the wife of Nityananda Prabhu, the Shakti, Janavi, one of the most historical events of our whole history, was the first Gaur Purnima festival. Now I'm fast forwarding, but then I'll rewind to continue the story. And in Khetri Gram in Bangladesh, Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, Shamananda, the greatest saints of that whole generation, they invited the people of the town and the associates of Lord Chaitanya to come. And this is years after Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda and everyone had already disappeared from this world. Janavi was the Acharya. She was the senior most saint in this whole assembly of the greatest saints in the world. And she asked Narottam Das Thakur to sing kirtan. And Narottam was a great renunciate too. Janava glanced at him, and her glance infused him with such love and devotion that when he sang, he completely mesmerized everyone with prema, love and devotion. And by the power of that chanting, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Advaita, and all these people who had left the world years before, they all appeared and danced with them. So we'll rewind. Panihati, 3 months of a kirtan. And then Nityananda Prabhu, he went to various other villages around. One of his associates, his name was Gadadhar Das. Gadadhar Das, he was infused by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. He had such spontaneous, ecstatic love and care for every being. In the town that Gadadhar Das was living was an evil, violent, envious man. He was a tyrant. He was in the role of a Qazi. And he completely outlawed kirtan, outlawed any religious activity other than his own path. And people were so afraid of him. If a breeze touched him, people would run away from the breeze because they were thinking that they would get contaminated. It just describes him as being so envious and cruel. And he had armies. He was government head. So in the middle of the night, Gadadhar Das runs into the Qazi's house and screams, and all the guards and soldiers are there, and they're saying, "What are you doing here?" Nobody dares come to this house. And they were looking at him, and Gadadhar screams out, "Qazi! At this moment, chant the names of Krishna. If you don't chant the name of Krishna, I will cut off your head." He said it so loud, the Qazi heard him. He woke him up. The Qazi was outraged. Meanwhile, the guards, they couldn't even lift their weapons because this was just too much. They were totally disoriented. Everyone's afraid of them, and he was so innocent and so pure, like a child. And the Qazi comes running out to destroy this offender. And he looked at Gadadhar, and Gadadhar was just gazing upon him with such kindness and such innocent love that he was disarmed. The Qazi said, "Gadadhar, what are you doing here?" And Gadadhar said, "I have come to ask you to chant the names of Hare." He said, "Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda have descended from the spiritual world to give the names of Krishna to everyone, and everyone's chanting except you. I order you, on behalf of Lord Chaitanya, chant the names of Hare." Qazi looked at him. He said, "Gadadhar, it's late at night. Just go home. Just go home and go to sleep, and tomorrow I'll chant Hare." And when he said that, Gadadhar jumped in the air and said, "Why tomorrow? You just said the name Hare." And then he was dancing in ecstasy and crying in joy and dancing all over the Qazi's house, and the Qazi was a devotee. So these are the types of effects that Nityananda Prabhu had on his associates. So he was going from village to village, and there were children, little tiny children. And Nityananda Prabhu gazed upon them and asked them to chant the names of Hare. And they were dancing and singing, and some of them, they were so spontaneous. They were little children, but they were roaring the names of God like lions. And some of them, they went to the a big tree. And as they started dancing, embracing the tree, and it's not that they were just so intoxicated by the holy names that as they were dancing, they uprooted the tree. And they were dancing with trees, uprooted. And some of them, 7 trees at the same time. Is this possible? Yes and no. Is it possible for the sun to be floating in the sky for so long? Is it possible for a little seed to become a redwood tree and live for thousands of years? We see miracles all around by God's grace. So when the Lord incarnates and wants to intervene in this in his own creation, anything could be. So we don't doubt these things, we just marvel at them. The children, for 1 month, they just danced in kirtan with Nityananda Prabhu. They forgot about eating and sleeping. And you may be thinking, what about their parents? The parents were so proud of them. Because the children were so happy. Because of the children, they were being blessed. So the parents just wanted the children just be there with Nityananda Prabhu dancing and singing and purify the universe. So this is how Nityananda Prabhu was spending his days in Panihati. And now I'll begin the story. So Radhanath Das Goswami had heard the news that Nityananda Prabhu was in Panihati on the bank of the river Ganges. And he asked his mother and father for their permission to go there to meet him. And they sent all his guards with him to make sure he came home. So we saw in today's play, Radhanath Das Goswami, he was so genuinely humble. Because the more we know God, the more humble we are. The less we know God, the more we could be proud. If you're proud of knowing God, that means you don't know God. We could be proud of God, but we're not proud of ourselves. Because Krishna is so beautiful and so great and so wonderful, our full satisfaction is in praising the Lord. And disconnected from that, we're trying to find it in ourselves. Haribol, Elizabeth, Haribol, from Ishwar.
All right. This can go on all night, please. It's such nectar. It's like rivers of nectar.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. I'm just about to end, actually. Radhanath Das Goswami, who was then Radhanath Das, understood that Nityananda Prabhu represents the original guru. And in our tradition, all gurus are just representing Nityananda Prabhu. It is that Shakti, that grace that is flowing through the gurus. And without Nityananda's mercy, no one can find the shelter of Lord Chaitanya. So it was his desire. And he went there with his assistants. And when he arrived under a big, beautiful banyan tree, that tree is still there today. You can go there in Panihati. It's one of the holiest of all holy places of India. Under this magnificent banyan tree, sitting on a rock, was Lord Nityananda, surrounded by all of his loving associates. And Raghunath Das came and saw him. Nityananda Prabhu, the Lord reveals himself according to our surrender and our devotion. He saw Nityananda Prabhu shining like 10 million suns. That was his experience. And he was so humbled by the greatness of Nityananda Prabhu that from a distant place he did his dandavat pranams. He bowed down. One of the assistants of Nityananda Prabhu said to Lord Nityananda, there is Raghunath bowing down to you in a distant place. And Nityananda Prabhu saw him and said, Raghunath, I see you. Why are you bowing from distant place? You come here. But Raghunath was too shy to approach the Lord like that. So Nityananda Prabhu actually ran and caught him and placed his lotus feet on Raghunath's head. And then Lord Nityananda said, like a thief, you are keeping a distance from me. Therefore, I will punish you. Prepare a festival with a feast of chipped rice and yogurt, chida dahi, and feed it to everyone. And Lord Nityananda was laughing. And Raghunath Das Goswami was so happy. We saw in the drama, Raghunath was very happy. And he had all of his guards, so he was using the guards in Lord Nityananda's service. And they went throughout the town and were buying all the chipped rice. And they, does everyone know what chipped rice is? It's very interesting. It is the cheapest of all foods. If you go begging in India, usually what you get is chipped rice. It's dry. It's just rice that's flat and dry. And because it's so flat and dry, it lasts for years because there's no moisture in it. It's usually sadhus. When they'll go to a village, beg, get some chipped rice, wrap it in a piece of cloth, and then go to their cave or the jungle, and it'll stay all year. They don't have to worry about food. They just add some water to it from a stream or from a river and then eat it. It's definitely an acquired taste. But when you're starving, anything tastes good, actually. But it's the cheapest food. He could have said, Raghunath Das Goswami is a billionaire. Nityananda could have said, make kichoris and samosas and kheer, sweet rice, and chipped rice. Very symbolic. Even the cheapest thing has the greatest value when it's done to please the Lord and devotees. So Raghunath and all of his guards and assistants were gathering all these ingredients. They got 200 to 400 large earthen pots. And then they got 7 huge, enormous earthen pots. And in these enormous earthen pots, they filled with hot milk and soaked all this chipped rice so it would be soft and nice. Otherwise, it's really dry. And then half of that, they put in pots, and all the ingredients were described in the drama, with yogurt and bananas and other ingredients, and the other was with condensed milk. And soon the news spread, a Chira Dahi Mahotsav, a festival of chipped rice and yogurt. So more and more people were coming, and then more and more people were coming. So Radhanath was even more excited, and they were going to other villages and getting all the chipped rice they could get, and kept preparing more and more and more. And soon the whole platform where Nityananda Prabhu was sitting was filled with people, and each had 2 pots. Chipped rice with yogurt, chipped rice with condensed milk. And when that was filled, they were sitting on the bank of the river. And when that was filled, people were in the river. There was no space. They were standing in the river with 2 pots of rice. And everyone was happy. And this is a philosophical principle very important to understand, that Lord Nityananda saw how everyone was so happy. He wanted to share that joy with Lord Chaitanya. So Nityananda Prabhu, in his heart, he called Lord Chaitanya to come and participate in this festival. And Lord Chaitanya came. But he wasn't seen by everyone. Only those very, very few people actually saw him physically. But others knew he was there. And actually, it's true. When we chant the holy name sincerely, God is there. He's there in sound vibration. But the sound vibration is not different than his form. When we make an offering to the Lord, some very great souls may sometimes actually see the Lord eating it. We offer it, and the food's still there. By the Lord's, by Krishna's patram pushpam palam toyam. Krishna tells, if you offer me food with love and devotion, I will personally eat it. We see through our faith. The Lord doesn't have to physically appear. We know he's there. When we make an offering, we know the Lord is here. And we know the Lord has tasted this food. There should be no doubt. It's a higher principle of knowledge revealed by God, realized and experienced by saintly people throughout history. So does it really make much difference whether you see the Lord eating or whether you have faith that the Lord is eating? The principles, the Lord's eating the same way, whether he shows himself physically or through our faith, through our knowledge, through our realization. So Lord Chaitanya appeared there. And Nityananda Prabhu and him were having such a good time because they were seeing all the devotees were so happy. There's nothing that makes Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, there's nothing that makes God happier than sarve sukino bhavantu. Then when people are spiritually happy, and there's nothing that we can do that's more dear to the Lord than making people spiritually happy. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he was providing this simple, cheap, chipped rice. And everybody had little clay pots and they were all eating. And Lord Chaitanya personally came, and Lord Nityananda was putting in his mouth, and he was putting in the mouth of Nityananda Prabhu. And they were going to each pot from all the different people, and they were taking out of the pot and putting in each other's mouths. And for most of them, it was really inconceivable because they just saw Nityananda. And he was going like this. And then he was going not like that, but something. Please, I'm sorry about that. But it was just extraordinary. They understood, they could understand Lord Chaitanya was there. And some few people actually saw the form of Lord Chaitanya. But this is very important. That the Lord's presence is not determined by what our material senses perceive. Faith in the truth, faith and knowledge of the scriptures actually gives us access to a higher reality than what the gross senses have the capacity to perceive. We're not depending on our senses because premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena. No one can see God with their mundane eyes because God is not mundane. We can't see cell phone waves, but as soon as it touches your phone, it rings. It's amazing. It hasn't rung yet. Usually in classes they make announcements. You can't see so many things that are realities. And that's just subtle matter. What to speak of spiritual? It's through knowledge and faith and purification we can see God according to our love for God. We could see Vrindavan according to our love and surrender. We can experience the fullness of Krishna in his holy names according to the purity of our heart. We can see the most beautiful manifestation of anything in creation in the deities according to our love. So in this way, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of people started coming, and Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya sat together eating the chipped rice and yogurt, and everyone was so happy. It wasn't just that the chipped rice and yogurt tasted so good. It was the Mahotsav, the festival. Everyone was gathered together in love and devotion to honor this feast. And that's what makes it so beautiful and so wonderful and so eternally satisfying to the soul. So this Chittadahi Mahotsav that we're celebrating is a festival of love. It's a festival of grace. It's a festival of mercy. It's a festival of compassion that is expressed in such a simple form. Some yogurt. Of course, all the yogurt is ahimsa yogurt. So in those days, there was no such thing as non-ahimsa yogurt because there was a culture of love for all beings. And Nityananda Prabhu personally saved the bowl that Lord Chaitanya ate from, and he ate from, exclusively for Radhanath Das Goswami. And after Radhanath Das Goswami served everyone, and then everyone else, and then everyone else, and then everyone else, then Nityananda Prabhu gave Lord Chaitanya's Maha to him. During the feast, Raghava Pandit, he came. He said, Nityananda Prabhu, I invited you to my house for prasad today, and my sister Damayanti and me, we cooked a whole feast for you. But now you're here under this tree, eating chipped rice on the bank, on the riverbank." And Nityananda Prabhu smiled and said, "I am a cowherd boy, and sometimes I like to eat picnic on the bank of the river with my associates. I will come to your home tonight." So that night there was a wonderful kirtan at Raghava Pandit's house in Damayanti, and then there was a glorious feast served again. And the next morning, with the blessings of all the devotees, Raghunath Das Goswami approached Lord Nityananda and offered this prayer that my life, my heart is to take shelter of Lord Chaitanya, and one cannot receive the shelter of Lord Chaitanya without your mercy, without the Guru Tattva. Please save me from my materialistic life. And Nityananda Prabhu spoke. He said, "Who can understand the glory of Raghunath Das? He has everything everyone wants in this world, but he just wants to love Krishna. He just wants to have the shelter of Lord Chaitanya." He said, "Because Lord Chaitanya personally came to receive your offerings, and because you have made all the devotees and everyone so happy, you will soon fully attain the shelter of Lord Chaitanya. And he will personally put you under the direction of his most intimate, loving associate, Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami. And in this way, you will be known as a most intimate associate of Lord Chaitanya. Now go and take shelter and offer respect to all the devotees." And Nityananda Prabhu requested all the devotees, everyone there, bless Raghunath Das Goswami. And he went and took dust from the feet of every devotee, and they all gave him blessings. And then Raghunath Das Goswami, he had large amount of money. He gave it all to Raghava Pandit and told him to, when I'm gone, when Nityananda Prabhu's in a private place and I'm gone, please give this much to Nityananda Prabhu and give this much to every single devotee. Whatever he had, he just wanted to serve. And after that, he went home. And we saw in the drama how circumstances just came in a very, very transcendentally beautiful way where he could leave his home in the middle of the night with the blessings of his guru, Yadunandan Acharya, and the guru of the whole family. But he had to escape. He didn't take the main road. He went through the jungles. And it took about 2 weeks, and he only got food for 3 days. Meanwhile, the next morning after he left, the family was looking all over for him, and all the guards. Where is he? Oh, he went with our guru, Yadunandan Acharya. And they asked Yadunandan Acharya, where is he? He said, oh, he took my blessings and he went to do his service, and they understood he was gone. At that time, Shivananda Sain, he and his family, they were taking a whole group of about 200 devotees from Bengal to Puri. And Shivananda Sain would organize everything. He paid for everything. About 3 weeks of walking, he arranged prasad 3 times a day. It's not like there were kitchens. He had to set up kitchens and have cooks go ahead and cook. He had to have people go ahead and set up places for them to sleep. He funded it. He organized it. Everything himself. He and his family. And Lord Chaitanya was so pleased with Shivananda Sain for doing this service. Lord Chaitanya would say, Shivananda say, your family is my family. And there are so many historical incidences of how Lord Chaitanya blessed him and his family. So Raghunath's running away from home, and Shivananda Sain's working like anything to serve the devotees at home. Who's better? There's no ego among devotees. Raghunath is thinking Shivananda Sain's better than me. Shivananda Sain's thinking Raghunath's better than me. But there's no envy, there's simply appreciation and affection. This is community, spiritual community. According to our particular nature, according to our occupational career, according to how we could best serve, we're all in different ways. And Srila Prabhupada describes what is oneness. Oneness with God doesn't mean we become homogeneously losing our identity and becoming God. Jivera Swarupora Krishna Nityadas. We're eternally servants of God. We're eternally part and parcel of God. Becoming one with God is to become one with God's will. To be in harmony with God's love. Srila Prabhupada gave the example when we talk about one nation. Here in America, do you still do that Pledge of Allegiance? One nation under God. Yes, one nation under God. Does that mean we all merge into the nation? We're all individuals. We have different colors and we have different backgrounds and we're coming from different countries and we have so many different, no two people are the same. But one nation means we're all willing to make sacrifices from our own personal egos for the benefit of the nation. That's one nation, one community. When we talk about one religion, we don't lose our identities. But oneness comes when there's love. Oneness comes when there's surrender. It's far more satisfying and far more real than just losing your identity. So in this way, Nityananda Prabhu blessed Raghunath Das Goswami, and he left, and by Nityananda's blessings, he finally reached Jagannath Puri. And from a distance he bowed down to Lord Chaitanya. And Mukunda Datta, an associate of Lord Chaitanya, he said, "There is Raghunath." And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately went to him and lifted him up and embraced him. and put him under the care of Swarup Damodar Goswami. And for the next 17 years, Raghunath Das Goswami was a personal eyewitness to the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and all of the associates. And yet he never forgot it is all by the mercy of Nityananda, and it's all by the mercy of all the other devotees. Raghunath Das Goswami displayed such an extreme level of renunciation. Not because he was just giving up material things, but because he was so totally absorbing all of his energies in the loving service of the Lord. He just didn't have time for anything else. There was never enough time. He had so much enthusiasm. He was chanting at least 200,000 names every day. He was bowing down to devotees thousands of times a day. He was bowing down to Krishna thousands of times a day. He slept and ate. All his bodily necessities were less than an hour and a half every day, and sometimes he just didn't have time for that. It wasn't that he was just beating himself up with denial of any pleasures. He was just so filled with spiritual excitement to please the Lord and chant the names of the Lord. He just didn't have time for these material things. Vishayavanivartante niraharasya deyana rasavarjamarasopiasya param dristvā nivartate. When one experiences this higher taste, then one can transcend all these lower things that we're so addicted and obsessed with. One day Raghunath asked Lord Chaitanya Raghunath never spoke to Lord Chaitanya, even though he was right there. He was too humble. He would always speak to Swarup Damodar Goswami, and Swarup Damodar Goswami would speak on his behalf. One day Swarup Damodar Goswami said, Raghunath is asking, what is the goal of my life and how should I achieve it? What are my duties and what is the goal? I don't really even know. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Raghunath, actually, Swarup Damodar Goswami knows all these things better than me. Lord Chaitanya is saying this about his servant. He knows better than me. You could just ask him. But since you're asking me, I will tell you. He gave 2 verses. Karam yakta katana shunibe. Do not speak gossip. That was the first thing. If we want to achieve purity of heart, real renunciation, whether we're wives or husbands, or brahmacharis or sannyasis, it applies to everyone. Do not speak gossip, mundane gossip. Internet these days, I don't want to get too many commentaries, but how much gossip is there? This person did this person did that, and all these conspiracy theories and everything else. It's just a waste of time for a transcendentalist. Do not speak this ordinary, mundane gossip. It will pollute your heart. Do not eat those things that are not going to be good for your devotional service. If we're overeating or undereating, or eating things that taste good but destroy our health, eat simple. Don't speak nonsense gossip. Dress in a simple way. And then he said, offer all respect to other people and do not expect respect for yourself. Always chant God's names, and in your mind and heart, whatever you do, do as an offering of loving service to Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. This is renunciation, and this is the goal of life. And he said, for any details, you ask Swarup Damodar Goswami. So Raghunath Das, it's beautiful, beautiful narrations of how he lived. And I'd like to end with one little story. A sannyasi named Shankar Ananda Saraswati came from Vrindavan and gave as a gift to Lord Chaitanya a Govardhan Shila, a stone from Govardhan Hill, and a Gunja Mala. Gunja is like a seed from a plant that grows especially in Vrindavan. And those little seeds look like small conch shells. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he would be in his Radha Bhavatuti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam, when he would be in his highest Mahabhav of Sri Radha's love, revealing the deepest ecstasies of prema, or spiritual love, he would put the Gunja Mala around his neck and chant. And he would see the Govardhan Shila as the personal body of Krishna. He would press it to his forehead, press it to his eyes, press it to his heart. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami tells that Shila was constantly moistened by the tears of the love of Lord Chaitanya. Those were his most prized possessions. The Gunja Mala representing the love of Radha, and the Govardhan Shila, the personality of Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya kept them with him for 3 years. And seeing Raghunath Das Goswami's pure love and devotion, and his true spiritual renunciation, with his own hands, Lord Chaitanya gave the Govardhan Shila and Gunja Mala to Raghunath Das Goswami. And he said, in giving you this Shila, I am giving you personally the eternal loving service of Krishna. And in giving you this Gunja Mala, I am giving you shelter in the loving service of Sri Radharani. And Lord Chaitanya told him how to worship. He said, you just clean water and tulsi flowers and tulsi leaves. Offer every day 8 tulsi flowers with a tulsi leaf on each side, 16 leaves. And bathe him with water. Very simple, with love and devotion. Raghunath Das Goswami receiving that gift, the most intimate gift. Lord Chaitanya is giving him Krishna. He's giving his own love for Krishna. And for the rest of Raghunath Das Goswami's life, he worshipped that Govardhan Shila and Gunja Mala. He was later on, when Raghunath Das Goswami moved to Vrindavan after Lord Chaitanya and Swarup Damodar Goswami disappeared from the world, he worshipped that Shila. And Raghunath used to feel in his heart that by giving me this Govardhan Shila, Lord Chaitanya has given me eternal shelter at Govardhan Hill. And by giving me the Gunja Mala, he's giving me eternal loving service to Srimati Radharani. And that Srila is still there in Vrindavan today. The Chiradahi Utsav is a festival of grace. It has the deepest, most profound and inclusive spiritual philosophy to it. And yet, the medium is simply simple. Simply simple and joyous. Srila Prabhupada would sometimes say Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's path is Kevala Ananda Kanda. It's joyful. Chanting, dancing, feasting. And the Bhakti Center and all of our temples are places where these wonderful festivals are times when we can all come together. To bring each other actual spiritual joy through the simplest things. The most meaningful of all gifts of life is the opportunity to share bhakti with each other. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.